All right, thanks everybody for joining us today. We've got Mark from Marvelution in the Netherlands. We didn't get to discuss the weather, but yeah, I'm sure it's starting probably to get a little bit cool over there. But yeah, welcome and yeah, to our webinar series, Meet the Atlassian Marketplace Vendors, where we get to meet all sorts of really interesting people across the world. And we get to hear about how their software and their plugins, can advantage, Atlassian customers. So, yeah, Mark, please tell us what you've got to say.
Well, thanks for having me. It's weather-wise, it's cold. It's not winter yet, but yesterday it felt like it, and right now it's way too dark to actually see what the weather going to be like today. But so yeah, I'm Mark from Marvelution, the one and only. There is no other one yet employed within Marvelution, which is like the biggest joke I get. Everyone expects that there's this ginormous team behind the app, where it's just me. So as a bit of history, in around about 2007, 2008, I finished my bachelor degree and started working like every programmer in the Netherlands does, like at the big consulting firms, working with Oracle, IBM, WebLogic, and all that stuff. And quickly realized that that was not for me. I wasn't learning what I wanted to learn. I started playing around with open source software, like the Spring framework at the time was a very big one. And this grew from one thing to another. Came into contact with Jira, came into contact with Hudson at the time, like the predecessor to Jenkins. Didn't like the out-of-the-box integration, so as a hobby thought, like, why not try build my own, and the rest, as they say, is history. It's since 2008, I think, I launched it on the very, very, very minimalistic marketplace as what it is today. I think originally it was just listing and you couldn't even download. So yeah, so I'll just share my screen here.
So, yeah, so that's an amazing founder's story there. So, and you've been at it for a long time.
Yeah, it's I've been a vendor, or yeah, it used to be vendor, now it's partner. I keep losing track of what they call things, but it's yeah, since 2000, end of 07, beginning of 08, I started this journey, and in 2015, I saw the opportunity to actually formalize Marvelution, the hobby, into a company, so that I can also provide the Jira Cloud subscription model that they added, and also better support data center. So yeah, so the one thing that I've had a whole bunch of projects in the past when it comes to the Atlassian family of products. I've built a Sonar integration or Sonar Cube integration in the past as well, for the entire suite of Atlassian products. But like the one project that I did that stood the test of time was the Jenkins integration for Jira. It grew out of a need for myself. I wanted to integrate the two so that I didn't need to leave Jira to see what the build results were, or how they were tied, or what builds were linked to what kind of issue. And so from there, I started playing around, since the out-of-the-box integration at the time was leaving comments, and I didn't really like that, so I started playing around with it. It's right now seen the 4th major rewrite. Every time I started out, initially I wanted to go live, so always seeing live data. But yeah, that wasn't working out. As bigger the instance of Jira became, the bigger the instance of Jenkins became, then Jira could very easily take down Jenkins just by the sheer number of requests it could send. So that was another good thing. So right now it's a synchronization model where the app gets notified from Jenkins and will synchronize the information it needs and do all the indexing at once. With the eventual goal that this illustration nicely illustrates is that it becomes easy to see the impact of your builds in relation to your issues. So from a developer standpoint, if you start your day in Jira, you can see where you left off the previous day when it comes to your Jenkins builds, what the results were, maybe even trigger a build if you want to start off the day with a fresh build. And from a release manager kind of perspective, you can say, okay, well, I've had this plan of issues that should be in the next release, and now what is the status of that? And you don't need to leave Jira. You can just within Jira, you can get all the issues that are related to the release that you're working on, and you can easily see the build status, which helps in the sense that Jenkins doesn't really lend itself to searching for builds. It's more of a, if you know it exists, you can quickly get there. But if you're like, oh, what issue is related to dev 1, then it can take a while to figure that out. And for instance, from a QA manager or engineer, or you can check the status. So is the next version on the right environment so that I can start my process, or and there are a whole lot more cases, but these are just the 3 that I highlighted, where you can really benefit if you don't need to switch context. So switching context, even from one app to another, trying to do the same job or complete the same task, it can still take a lot of time to figure out, okay, where was I and what was I trying to do? And if you lose a lot of time searching for something, then by the time you actually find your stuff, you'll probably need to remember yourself what you were actually doing before you started the search.
It's a huge thing, context switching, and then having to spend time in trying to find things when you're really just digging instead of clicking a link and seeing the result. And I think, yeah, that's amazing, Mark. I think what you've got here is like, the use case is if you have Jira, if you have Jenkins, then you need this product. That's
well, I wouldn't say as much as you need this, but you need something that will integrate the two. And this is just my take on
very modest way, very modest way of putting it, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, so as you highlighted, it's make it easy to find your information within Jira of what the impact is on from the Jenkins side. It's also vice versa. So if you're within Jenkins and you're viewing a build that has a relation to an issue, then it will show that relation, so you can quickly jump to Jenkins or to Jira should you want to do that. And as I mentioned, it's a synchronization model. So you add a site and you either say, okay, everything that is new should be automatically linked, or I only want specific jobs to be supported. And the last major piece before we'll dive into a short demo is the automation. So before automation for Jira was acquired by Atlassian, is now a full-fledged partner or a product within Jira itself. There was no easy way to support automation without the need to buy an additional app. So I set out to create a very simple solution that would allow users to configure rules that would be executed as soon as either a job or a build was synchronized over to Jira, to take action, like if the first build is finished, put a ticket in progress, or if a backup job runs in the middle of the night that no one is really watching, but it fails, create a ticket and alert the right people. So it's right now it's a simple one branch when if then approach that we'll also see shortly in the demo. And here are just two simple cases, or two common cases. Create a ticket based on build results. You have a build that you're not really watching day to day, but you need to be. But it's important enough that you need to be notified as soon as something goes wrong. Then you can create a rule that would automatically create that ticket if the build fails.
Mark, what's interesting for me is what I think will be changing over the into the future is our sensitivity to when things go wrong. Like, because you just sort of mentioned, it's not so important, or things. Everything is important. You really want to just make sure as soon as anything in the organization fails that you've got that notification happening. So I think we should be thinking really broadly about this.
Yeah, it's the funny thing within, I think, every business. It doesn't really matter what kind of business you're in. Like, everything is important, but not everything that is important gets the same treatment when it comes to eyes on it, in the sense that when it's good, but also when it's starting to go bad. I've been at before I started Marvelution, the company, I was a consultant going around with different clients, and sometimes issues would go unnoticed for months, and that like in some cases minutes can be terrifying, but when it goes on to months, then you're really starting to be scared, like, okay, what ripple effect am I not seeing from this? And backup is an easy one that you forget. It should run every day or every hour or something like that, but you need to be notified. In some cases are more important than other cases. If it fails for some reason, so that's where this automation trick can come in. So that's like presentation wise, if you want to call this that. It's pretty much it, and we can jump into the demo. So I got this my local dev instance of Jenkins running here. It's just a sample with some dummy data in there, which don't really end up with very fast build times, since it's not the build itself that I'm interested in for the test. It's more the result and how those get processed. And here I have a staging site. So here you can, after you've installed the app, so of course once you're in the manage portion, this always takes ages. Anywho, people have seen this. You go to find your app. Here's this is the one for with staging specific information, but now the production is identical in that sense. You have some specific within or app configuration, like some basic stuff like maximum builds per page, or data retention, like how long in months do you want to keep your builds within Jira. So in Jenkins, you can say, only keep the last 5 builds, or only keep the last builds of the last 7 days, or something like that. And within Jenkins, those builds will get actually deleted, and you will lose that information. But within Jenkins or within Jira, it won't. It will keep that log. It will only mark it as being deleted, so that it doesn't generate links to something that no longer exists. But over time, you may want to clean up that data, because it will also impact your indexes for if you look at like the number of builds that were successful or failed. If a build has been removed from Jenkins, it will still keep in the cache. So this data retention is something that is there to help you clean up. And then the other 3, the last 3 are specific when you trigger a build. So within Jira, you can trigger a build in Jenkins, either through a workflow post action, or just a manual action. But sometimes you may want to also send additional information other than just the basic, to provide additional information to your Jenkins build. And this will allow you to do that. So you can map fields of an issue and say, okay, this should be sent. Whenever I trigger a build, also include project environments and the components.
Necessary information.
Yeah. So sometimes when you want to trigger a build, you may want to pass along information from Jira to do so. So if you want to release or trigger your release build from Jira, you don't want to have to copy paste the version number. You just want to say, okay, this is the version number, this is the parameter, jump over there and just do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into the actual. So you can add a site as both support for public and behind the file like private instances. So in this case, we will I need to use this one. So it will be added. You see the links have up. If we jump over to manage, don't mind all the errors. Those are developer centric. So here you can see that this is the site that we just added. So now Jenkins is also aware that there is a Jira instance behind it. And if we look within Jira, we can see the different builds that I've run, or the different jobs with the different with builds. So here you have build 1. So if I go to example, and just build it now. And here you can see the notification was successfully sent to the staging site. And if we refresh that page here, then build number 2 has magically appeared. Now this is one. So I can also let me quickly add a description for Dev 11. So there are a number of places where the app will search for issue keys, the project name, project description, URL, change log, of course, you change that, and a whole bunch of other places. And now you see that build 3 is here, but it has identified that dev 11 is a part of it. And here you can actually see that it links into the CI/CD or development panel for Jira Cloud specific. On-prem, you don't have this, but there is a 99% feature parity with cloud and versus on-prem. So for your data center version, you also have this CI builds panel that you can load, and that you can see all the issues and the latest example. Build number 3 is also nicely listed there. So this is what it all got started on, being able to visualize the builds that are related within Jira without needing to switch context. And there are right now multiple views to do this. And yeah, so when it comes to sometimes if something happens with an app, you may want to have it automatically do something for you. So this is where the rule comes in. Now, for example, let's just say if a job gets synchronized, then I would like to create a ticket in the development project. Let's make it a bug. Yes. So within these elements, there is this expression context or syntax. I can quickly show you that in docs. Automation. Expression. So these are like some of the values that you can dynamically get parsed at runtime of the rule. So you can see, like, I just used job.displayName. But yeah, there's a lot of information that you can utilize from the event in order to get the correct things done.
It's amazing, Mark. I think I'll come back to what I said before. If you've got Jira and you've got Jenkins, do you not need this product? And do you want to just quickly tell us how many downloads? And I think we saw before very briefly your customer list, I think it was on your website. Do you want to scroll to that again? And just
sure. It's where was it?
Yeah, so that's a pretty impressive client list you got there, Mark. So look,
yeah, well, so it's been very popular. I've always hovered around 3,000 worldwide active installs, or at least that's the number that the marketplace gives me. I don't know about anything outside of that. I don't really honestly keep track. These are some of the customers that are using the app, but I also see a whole lot of like the very smallest subscriptions that you can get from people that just do it as a hobby, or one-man teams or small teams within organizations. So it's a very broad, like from the 10 user license all the way up to what is the biggest now on cloud, like 5,000 or something.
And that's because of Atlassian, because it crosses every industry sector and every size of business, from your micros through to corporate and government. And it doesn't matter if you're a one-man band producing software. If you've got Jenkins, I can definitely see how this product's going to be a fit. Or you're someone like IBM, I don't know how many employees they got, but I'm sure they're writing a fair bit of code.
So from very early on, I've always tried to, or as soon as as soon as I needed to figure out a business model around my open source free software. So before 2015, everything was free. After 2015, there is still a free version available, but it's for Jira Server that has been swiftly set aside.
Controversial topic, yes.
So I need to think of how I'm gonna change the scope of that free version. But after that, everyone needs a living. So it was like, okay, how am I gonna monetize this, but in a way that it's available for everyone? And that's what initially I liked about the licensing model that Jira had. It's if you're like a one-man shop, you can get it, as well as the $1 million, $1 trillion.
To be honest, that's how design industries got into Atlassian. Was $10 for 10 users. And small company, it's suddenly affordable, and you want to buy a few products, and what is it, $50 a month, and you've got an enterprise grade software suite.
So I really liked that approach. I really before I started for myself, I was in the end a lead developer and architect for a company that sort of said they were building software, but they more lent towards consulting, and they only went for the big boys. They only wanted like the $1 million or the $1 trillion companies to actually invest and buy the product. So it was a very steep curve. And I always said, like, wouldn't it make more sense if you sold 1 million copies for $1 each than one for $1 million? You may not make your million if you go for the $1, but the chance is higher that you're closer to that million.
Different way of going about it. They've been very clever at Atlassian, haven't they? All right. Is there anything else you'd like to touch? Go on.
Sorry. No, I think it's a smart way of doing it, because there's a lot more potential in. Unfortunately, they killed Server. I really don't like that they did that.
And I think
I'm not the only one.
I personally think it happened far too rapidly, and I can see why. And ultimately, just to put the subject out there, why can't we purchase data center at a 10 user tier? If you're going to support it for the enterprise, why can't we just have it at a lower user tier? And then we are where we were. We've got an on-prem version for those who need it, regardless of your size. We've got a cloud version, regardless of your size. We can cater for everyone. That's, to me, what they should be thinking about. But
I think that would be a good thing, because in the end, a server instance is just a single node data center instance, because technically it's identical.
Exactly.
It's only the license and one property file, I think, that changes from a deployment perspective. So I think that it's a bit rapid, and for the smaller companies, like, it's only cloud that is now an option. Like, if you're 10 users and you want to go data center, then that's a sure way of going bust. There's no way you can make that happen.
All right. So, well, Atlassian, in their wisdom, look, they do so many amazing things, and I think they've got a lot of things right. I think we are not the only ones who potentially think that this decision or possibly could have been handled slightly differently. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, yeah, we can see Atlassian is certainly investing in the product. They're investing in the growth markets, amazing product. We can help every team, every function. We've got organizations like yourself and people like yourself in the ecosystem who are just, yeah, brilliant and producing amazing stuff. And yeah, I'd like to, yeah, just thank you for joining us, Mark, today and showing us the integration with Jenkins. And I'll say it for the third time, got Jira, got Jenkins, you need this. It's quite that simple. So any questions, queries, please reach out to either Mark or to Design Industries. And yeah, we'll certainly be able to help you out. Any final thoughts then, Mark?
Other than thanks, even though it's very early in the morning. But yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun. If you have questions, reach out either through support or mail or even phone, whatever you like. And I'm sure I can answer your question or get an answer to your question, whichever the case may be. And yeah, looking forward to speaking with you all again.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks once again, Mark, and thanks everyone for joining us. Yeah, very entertaining and yeah, very informative. So thanks very much. Cheers, everyone, all over the world.